All right, welcome back to Original Geek. This is the podcast for anyone who rolled dice in a basement, waited hours to download comic covers on dial-up, and proudly wore the label geek back when it was a target and not a trend. We're going to dive deep into what it meant to be a geek in the 70s and 80s and how that compares to the mainstream world we live in today. We are two of the Gen X survivors who didn't just watch geek culture evolve, we lived through it every awkward phase. Hi, I'm Steve Scarfo.
And I'm Jeff Shaw, and we'll be your radioactive spiders for today's multiversal crossover. Last week we talked about Dungeons & Dragons, and just so you know, we'll come back to Dungeons & Dragons. Today, what are we talking about?
Today we're going all comics.
Ooh.
Comic books, MCU, we're going to talk a little bit of DC. I'm wearing a little Star Labs t-shirt. Bonus points if someone can tell me where that's from. And if you're a geek, you probably already know. If you're not a geek, you don't know who this is, this might not be the right show for you.
Deep cut.
It's sort of a moderate cut at best. It's not all that deep if you're in our world. But that's a great point. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. We did D&D. Today we're doing comics. We're probably going to jump into some science fiction next week. We'll be talking all sorts of stuff. So today we're going to start with the evolution of the superhero culture from the golden age of comics to the MCU multi-million-dollar blockbuster.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
All right. So let's start off with where, if you look back from where we are today, it started with Marvel and DC kind of shaping this world. When we were kids, we talked a little bit last week about going to that store and grabbing those books and bagging them up and the horrible, horrible shows that they had. I remember the first Spider-Man TV show. You could see the stitching across his head for the ridiculous mask they put him on. But
yeah, but we did have good animated content. And actually, not compared to today, but the Super Friends, they were great. That was good. And then
Gleep and Gloop.
I did not remember, I should say, I didn't know I was watching these in reruns. I actually thought the Adam West Batman, I liked it, but I was a kid, and they were campy, and it worked. And that's what, in the 1940s, that's DC Comics, they were it. There was no Marvel at that time, and they were timely comics at that time. Timely time. So there was Captain America and Submariner, Human Torch, but
Fantastic Four.
But it was no, Fantastic Four came later. 40s, DC ruled.
DC, you mean the DC Human Torch?
Yeah, it started
not
out.
Storm.
Yeah, it was. And that's before our time. I do want to. We always talk about we're the OGs, we're Gen X. But I want to give the boomers some love right now. Because in all honesty, without Stan Lee, without his thinking, hey, these comic books, they don't have to be for little kids, which is what a lot of DC stuff was. We can write it for late teens. We can write it for adults. And thank you, boomers, for doing that, because, comics that we enjoyed that were more geared, my favorite comics were Marvel, and that was more for late teens and adults.
Oh yeah, the two I remember the most, and I agree. Let me give it up for the boomers, because the George Reeves Superman were some of the first comic book stuff I remember seeing, and I don't remember. I should have done some better research on this. I don't remember the year that came out. But I must have been a kid watching reruns, because they were all black and white.
Yeah, black and white.
But to see him run
60s.
in and pull off the coat and to see him fly for that first time was just awe-inspiring as a child to see that on screen. We would not be anywhere. I think we did more than they did. But no, that's where we all started. But yeah, I remember.
Well, I wasn't too bright because, like I said, I thought the Adam West Batman was brand new when we were kids. And George Reeves Superman, I didn't know any better.
Yes.
I first saw that. Oh, wow, Superman.
But when we talk about what we collected, the two books I remember the most, and probably the ones I spent the most of my time with, were the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, because the artwork he had on those covers was amazing, and Wolverine when he got his own book, back before he was the thing he is today, before the Greatest Showman there put him on screen for us and made him awesome. I'm just drawing a blank on the guy's name. But
Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman, thank you. Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I mean, Wolverine was like Dirty Harry. He was like it could not be more different from Superman. Superman was clean, super clean, did the right thing, certainly wouldn't kill anyone. And here's Wolverine with claws.
Yeah, completely the opposite. Even Batman, who was a grimier version in DC, still didn't want to kill people. Like, sometimes bad guys got really badly hurt. Superman always made sure everyone's safe. Wolverine, the best were the bloody claws. Like, all you saw was blood dripping off the blades.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later they got more graphic. But, yeah, some of the way it went from where it was so clean and pristine and, like you said, kid-like.
Yeah, I mean, it was for kids. And like I said, like, thank you, boomers. Well, specifically Stan Lee. I don't know if he's technically a boomer or what is it, the silent generation, I think is before that, but
Stan's his own generation. But he gets to know he's the Stan Lee generation.
But it took, like, because we were kids when in 78, that's when Superman, the movie of Christopher Reeves, and so Gen X, we can't take credit for Superman's like being the first good quality movie for a superhero, but man, we can I think take credit for Wolverine's success. I think so.
So I think I know what you're saying, but I disagree a little bit because 78 we were kids, but it was interest from us and maybe the few years older, the late boomer, early Gen Xers, because we're a few years in, that really drove them to make that first Superman movie. So we might have been kids when it came out, but it was our generation's buying of these comic books that led these companies to say, oh, this is a property, And obviously, again, not the first one. There were a couple different versions of the TV show, and Superman was, I think, an audio serial back before TVs were even a thing. So the character's been around forever, but the drive to put it on a movie, in a real movie, not just a TV with, crazy bad special effects. And
yeah,
I saw a clip earlier today. It was a real person jumping into the air and then an animated Superman in black and white. And then he goes behind like a rock, and then a real guy jumps up. And it was so obviously a cartoon in between. It was like ridiculous and hysterical. And I loved it.
So, is it time for a geek flashback?
I think so. So, Jeff is going to lead us in very nicely in the segue, by the way, to something we didn't do in the first episode. We had planned it, but we didn't really talk about it. We have different segments we're going to talk about. And this one is the geek flashback. So, there'll be a thing that drops in here.
Let's take a trip through time. It's a geek flashback.
So here's our flashback topic. And feel free, if you guys are listening, to play along. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can interact with us in the show, too. But I'm going to, where this is coming. What was your first comic book? What was the first... we'll start with the first comic book. There's a couple different questions there. But
I have to admit it was probably like Richie Rich or Casper or Wendy. Most likely it was that. Because someone else would have bought that for me. So I would have, like my parents, my grandma, someone would have bought that for me, and they would have bought me the little kid comic book. But what stands out to me as my first superhero one, and of course, it is my memory exactly right on this. I don't know, that was a long time ago. But I remember this cover from, at least if it was my first, it was one of my first. And I love that they recreated this in the Avengers. And it was Ant-Man on the arrowhead of Hawkeye's arrow going to get launched. And that was on the cover. And it was awesome. And was that absolutely my very first Avengers comic? Maybe not, but certainly pretty close to it. Would have been late 70s, early 80s.
That was a pretty cool image. I guess, so this is where you and I fall differently on the books that we read, because I didn't start reading Avengers until I think after you and I started being friends. I was stuck. I think I had some of the same Richie Rich, like original kiddo comics back in the day. The first ones I remember buying are those ones I was just talking about, the McFarlane Spider-Mans and the Wolverines. And it had to be from an X-Men that I fell in love with Wolverine, because there was something about that character. I think the healing and the fact that he was always so reckless was so cool. But I remember buying that first, goodness, it was for at least a while worth quite a bit. I had the very first Wolverine in a bag, backered. Like, I think I bought two, read one and immediately bagged the second.
Smart.
You know, those I still have it somewhere. I think I still have some of them. I lost a bunch in a flood, which is a family trauma I'll have to process on another episode. But it was something magical about seeing him in his own story. And I goof around about forgetting the name, but Hugh Jackman playing him on screen. If you had looked at some of the other movies Hugh Jackman had done, I'd have been like, oh no, he's horrible. But he totally embodied that part. But yeah, so I'm going to say X-Men was my favorite first image of a comic book cover.
Nice.
All right. So let's jump into Geek Court.
The fandom is divided. It's time for Geek Court.
I think
we've been on the same page for most of this episode and last one. It's time to
I really want to use the sound from Law and Order, the gong gong, but I'm feeling we'll get in trouble. So I'll just use what I just did. I don't think they'll notice it as their sound. Geek Court. All right, so here we go. Listen, again, jump into this conversation, original geek podcast at gmail.com. Tell us what you think, if we are on target or full of shit. But here's the biggest question for today. Who was the better movie Batman, Michael Keaton or Christian Bale? We're not even going to count Affleck. He was the most recent.
Wait a second.
That's what you can say about Affleck. He was the most recent.
All right. But you're also skipping Val Kilmer and
George Clooney.
George Clooney.
You want to put all five on the table? All right. Well, we were going to go Keaton or Bale, but let's throw them all up there. So we got Michael Keaton, the original. Val Kilmer came number 2. George Clooney jumped in there, number 3.
Yeah.
Christian Bale, admittedly did the darkest, grittiest one.
Which is why he's my choice.
And then, of course, Ben Affleck.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you gotta. Don't get me wrong. I love Ben Affleck.
Off George Clooney, Affleck, immediately off. And just so you know, I'm not one of those haters of the Affleck version. It's just he's not as. And I know Kilmer only got one shot, but maybe we're Gen X, and that's why I love Val Kilmer. But I do wish we had had more Val Kilmer Batman. But
I wanted to see Val Kilmer do his character from Top Gun with the teeth, the Iceman with the teeth, talking to
yes,
talking to the Penguin. Come on, Penguin, let's go. You know what I mean? I'll have to cut the cough. Pardon me. So why we get it? I mean, I like the Christian Bale version, but I'm telling you, it's got to be Keaton. So Keaton was the original. Keaton had to wear the crappiest costume of all of them. It was like one molded piece, and he still made it look pretty damn cool. Keaton got a couple of movies, at least 2. I think it was 2.
Technically 3. He got the Flash. He got to come back.
And we're gonna talk a little bit about the cameo in the Flash later, but no, Michael Keaton. So here's the deal: Michael Keaton was a guy known for movies like Mr. Mom. You know what I mean? He was a comedic actor. He is a comedic actor. Michael Keaton did Multiplicity, one of my favorite movies, where he played 5 different characters, and pretty convincingly, I thought. But again, a comedy. And then he drops into, and that order is probably wrong, but then as Batman, Michael Keaton was a whole, like, to me, that showed him become a different genre, become a different character. You know what I mean? I loved Michael Keaton showing off his darker side, even though he had probably the tamest of the dark sides.
The tamest?
Well, I mean, Christian Bale was a lot grittier. But his movie was a different time.
George Clooney had the tamest. Come on, he actually had a sidekick with it.
Well, Holy Rusted Metal, Batman. I do agree. Chris O'Donnell as Robin was probably not.
We didn't include Adam West. How dare we?
Oh,
anyway.
Well, we did say cinematic Batman. I think like Stan Lee, Adam West
just
is
made
in
for TV movies count because
he was in a category by himself. He kicked off the whole thing.
So Christian Bale, nothing against Mr. Mom for being Batman, and Mr. Mom did his best as Batman, but let's face it, Christian Bale, The Dark Knight, far better, superior Batman. I loved Keaton's Batman at that time, but when you look at it in truly a comparison, The Dark Knight, it's the best. And Christian Bale with that deep, I can't do.
He's got that.
A Batman. Wait, let's do a
Batman. Okay,
who's got?
Go ahead, you go. You sound like the guy on YouTube who's trying to pretend he's trying to get the voice. I'm Batman? No, that's not okay. Are you Batman? I don't know.
That's Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes. It is Pete Holmes.
A great job. Yeah.
Who's freaking hysterical, by the way. No, here's mine. Here we go. I'm Batman.
That's good. So you do have the better Batman from the two of us, but what you don't have is a better choice for the better Batman. And that's Christian Bale.
No, Michael Keaton, man. I love Christian Bale. He was great. I'm not going to take it away from him, but just for pure, and I'm going to say the beginning of the most recent run of these movies in our timeline, like in our lifetime, it has to be Michael Keaton. Listen, I don't know. Jeff goes Christian Bale. I went Michael Keaton. We threw at least 4 Batman out the window. If you guys think we're just full of shit, let me know.
Yeah, who's your favorite Batman? And obviously it's Christian Bale. I mean, all right, so let's compare.
No, I think the right way to say it, Jeff, is tell us who your favorite Batman is, and then tell us why it's Michael Keaton.
Okay. Then tell us what your favorite Batman movie is, and then who starred in it. Because if it's probably The Dark Knight, and maybe Heath Ledger's Joker had a fairly substantial reason for that, but Christian Bale's Batman.
No, I don't think we can include the Joker because his performance was phenomenal. And if we had to include the bad guys, it would put George Clooney's Batman even further in the hole because of all the horrible portrayals of villains that they gave him. He got stuck in a hole quite a bit.
Come on, chill out.
Oh my goodness.
All right, I think it's time to tell us what you think. Sorry.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Let us know. But now we're gonna dive deep into the basement, Jeff. We're gonna dig up some old stuff that only guys like us, or maybe some girls like us, might have hidden. We talked about a whole list of stuff, but Jeff has told me this is a segment called Basement Treasures.
Dust it off and geek it out, because it's a basement treasure.
They're digging in the wrong place.
Yep.
So
Dug down deep.
He's dug in deep. I have no clue what you're about to say, so let's hit it.
You do
hit
not.
us with it.
Okay, so my choice for Basement Treasure is not because this movie is the best. It really is not. But nostalgia. And a lot of what we talk about at Original Geek and what, maybe why you're listening is for nostalgia. You want that walk down memory lane. Well, the Incredible Hulk TV series was a favorite of mine. I loved it. The whole you won't like me when I'm angry. The music, exactly. Well, in 1988 they brought it back. So it ran from 77 to I think 82, and then it was gone, and then it brought it back in 1988, and it had Thor, and that is why I wanted to bring that out of the basement, take another look, and enjoy this first time Thor appeared on screen. And I do love that, as bad as some of the early comic book content was, I love that it didn't bury it forever, that we got to dig it out. As when I was 18 and I saw that, I really I thought, wow, that's awesome seeing Thor on screen. And so for me, that's why I want to bring out that Basement Treasure is the first on screen.
I mean, not for nothing. The first, I don't know if it is. I'm going to call it the first because it's the first one I remember, but the first crossover. The first where there were two heroes, Hulk and Thor, in the same show. I don't know that they did that during the Spider-Man days back on the old Spider-Man TV show.
No. So yeah, for Marvel, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great choice. I love that I didn't know that it was coming because I remember those. I used to love the Hulk too. Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk was amazing. Bill Bixby playing Dr. Banner.
So as I was kind of like looking into this episode, one thing that I didn't know is that Lou Ferrigno wasn't even Hulk's voice.
No, Lou Ferrigno has a hearing impairment. He doesn't have clear speech.
Yeah. Okay.
So he couldn't do the voice. They didn't let him.
He didn't have a voice. Like, but it was like all the like growls.
It was just grunting and growling.
The grunting. Like they couldn't even do that. That's crazy.
They could have let him. I don't know why they chose not to, but I remember watching some stuff and he didn't seem to mind. And maybe that was just what he told the cameras of the day.
Yeah, that's true.
No, great call. Great call. I'm going to go with one of the ones on our list because I really did enjoy it as a kid. Maybe not even quite as a kid, a little older than a kid. The Rocketeer, which was a Disney production set in the 1950s, I believe. A guy who's a pilot finds it's a rocket pack that was an experimental, I believe, an experiment done by the government, and they couldn't get it to work, and they kept crashing and killing people. And because he was just, down home ingenuity, he built this helmet with the rudder on the top, which gave him the really cool profile look. And that's how he could steer and control the rocket. And he had the little button for the booster. But I love a good origin story. As much as we hate seeing that spider bite Peter Parker every time there's a movie that comes out, there's something about that story that at that time I thought was, a person who went from, trying real hard to being this thing. It was just a fun ride, no deep meaning. There was, there's always the superhero tropes of, and again, he's sort of like a Batman because he didn't have superpowers. He just had this jetpack and a helmet, right? That was it. He was just a guy who kind of aspired to be more and found a way to do it. Do you remember The Rocketeer at all?
I do, but
not as fondly.
I don't have quite the same fond memories of it. But hey, I appreciate that you dug that out of the basement, and then just like Michael Keaton's Batman.
Oh, Oh no, you're putting Keaton back in the basement too.
No.
Damn,
Keaton's
man.
awesome. He's awesome. Like, and I have to admit, one of the best parts of the Flash movie was the return of Michael Keaton's Batman. So, no, I loved it, and I loved his performance.
And the return of George Clooney's Batman. Spoilers.
Just
sorry, spoilers are supposed to be first. If you heard that and you hadn't quite seen this movie yet, then tough shit, I guess.
Because
it's been a couple years. Yeah,
it's gone.
It's not coming back.
It's not coming back.
Go watch
James
it anyway.
Gunn
That is the least of the bad parts.
Moved on from all of it.
All right, so we are now. We have a couple more pretty cool segments coming up for you here. So this is what we're calling our message to the new generation. We might change this, but we're going to go with it for now. This is our message to you.
Kids don't know how good you've got it.
If you are not Gen X, if you are, I don't even know where the millennials start.
Millennials, we got Gen Z,
Gen Alpha.
maybe even Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
This could apply to.
And the Gen Betas are still under 10, so we're going to leave them alone.
You're okay.
They're fine. All right. Again, you gave me some information that you had something, but didn't tell me what it was. So let it rip.
All right. So as Great Stanley said, with great power comes great responsibility. And right now, you geeks, you millennial geeks, you Gen Z geeks, you have great power, because when you post things, sometimes they go viral. When, as a collective, you put a review on to a show or a movie, it could tank it, and then other people don't want to see it. So keep that in mind. As if you want to continue with this great content, this, as we said in the last episode, this golden age of geekdom, please stop tanking everything. Of course you can have your opinion, of course you can render it, but don't just tank it to be a troll. And if you want something to improve, of course comment on it, but don't try to kill it, because now we don't have a second season of The Acolyte. I know we're talking Star Wars and we're only supposed to be talking superheroes here, but that was a great series. And like I said, if that came out in the 80s, would have been the best thing ever. So keep that in mind. You have great power with what you say, and with that we didn't have back in the 80s. And we were just grateful for even crappy things like The Incredible Hulk Returns, because at the time it seemed great. Will not stand the test of time. That Thor, no comparison to the current Thor. So please, millennials, Gen Z, just don't troll things to destroy, troll things to make them better. You, Steve. Use your trolldom.
I think I might just pile on a little bit, because I think it's important. You talk about going viral, which is not a thing that we could have ever talked about. And that's even only in the last decade, maybe, that the idea of how social media is today. And again, geek at heart, I watch all sorts of stuff. I watched a 15-minute video today on YouTube about how AI is destroying. Actually, no, it was half an hour. It was John Oliver tonight on HBO or Max or whatever the hell they're calling it these days, about how AI is being used negatively, right? And how the whole purpose is to go viral with crap. So I would say, and I've seen a bunch of these AI videos, which I make them too, and I think they're great, but with great power comes great responsibility. Use it right. Not only use it to enhance and promote and do good things, use it as a tool. Don't use it to replace your creativity. Don't sit back and let someone else decide what you want to do. And certainly don't let AI generate your entire world. I use it for show notes. I use it for stuff, but I use it as a tool. And then Jeff and I, we talk. This is what drives me crazy. And when you go online and you trash something just because you think that trashy comment's going to go viral and get you 1,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000 views, and you might get 82.7 cents from YouTube, think about what that might really be doing, because There was a time when Jeff and I, we talked about it last week with D&D. We had to hide comic books in our book bags. Like, people would make fun of us for walking around with a kid's book, 14, 15, 16 years old. Going to a premiere for a new Avengers movie or seeing Robert Downey Jr. come back again wasn't like an amazing thing. And let's talk Spider-Man No Way Home, when 3 Spider-Men were on screen at the same time. One of my favorite moments in cinematic history, because I loved all 3 of those guys as Spider-Man. So to see them together in one movie, I know some people hated it. I know some people got, Tobey Maguire shouldn't have come back or whatever. Use that information. Give your opinions for sure. They're yours. You earned them. You own them. But don't trash stuff just to trash it, because I want to see another great crossover movie. My favorite movies are these multiversal movies because they show characters that we love in ways that they don't usually get to be. Even way back to the Hulk and the Thor, seeing somebody out of place, out of pocket, in interacting with another character that you love, there's just nothing better. Stop screwing around. Use your power for good. If it's going to go viral, make it go viral to make people laugh or make people interested. Stop being a dick.
This actually goes really well with our next segment, which is critical hits and epic fails.
It's critical hits and epic fails.
When you talk about epic fails, I mean, we are going to be saying some negative things. But we do it out of love because we want more good quality content. So giving that feedback, and then you get the better product. But let's first focus on the positive. A critical hit. And Steve, what's like one of the biggest superhero critical hits for you?
Well, I had something else on my list, so I will use that. But I'm going to go back to the Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
But again, the idea of bridging the generations of movies, which for the first time in a long time too saw multi-billion-dollar conglomerates cooperate between Marvel and Sony to bring these Spider-Man and their nemesis out together, because there were bad guys from 4 different movies. Do you know what I mean? All together. In the MCU with Happy, Aunt May, and actually brought back Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
So this whole, I might be crossing my movies there. Daredevil was a different Spider-Man, but the No Way Home.
No, wasn't he in the? Yeah.
That was the beginning of No Way Home, right? Because he gets caught for being Spider-Man, and that's what what sends him to Doctor Strange, right? All right, I had it right. So we got like a bunch of crossovers in one big, beautiful movie that incredibly well acted, all across the board. Heart-wrenching at the end if you like these characters at all. And I won't spoil that one. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what's wrong with you. But that's a critical hit for me. I was going to just say something different, but I'm going to leave that one for another time.
That's a great call out. And what I liked about that one is that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, who I thought he was an awesome Spider-Man, because we could do a similar like court as to who's the best Spider-Man.
Yes. And
I think Andrew Garfield's going to keep losing, but I don't think he should. I actually think his Spider-Man was fantastic, and I really loved that he finally got some respect from that and got to hear that, because it was his Spider-Man that was truly canceled. I know Tobey Maguire had kind of, and this happens, kind of aged out a bit, and Spider-Man is supposed to be young adult, really, teenager. And
late high school, early college.
Yeah, so it's weird to have a middle-aged Spider-Man. Of course, that's going to happen naturally, but so I thought Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was awesome, and it wasn't necessarily it was not the actor's fault that the second one had some problems. And it's great that he got another shot at it. So,
And I think the portrayal by all three of them came out so different for three guys playing the same character and essentially the same person. Not even like three guys have the same name. No, it was supposed to be the same person. And each one of their performances was just subtly different, very grounded, very emotional. The whole scene where they're talking about where their webs come from, and how I think Tobey Maguire is the only one who has natural webbing, and the other two have to make their webbing. And he's like, "Don't make fun of me." Like,
great.
It was such a great scene, so grounded, so sweet, and like right before an epic battle, that the movie just plays well to me anyway on every level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a different hit you want to talk about, or are we dropping over to fails?
No, I think we got to go to epic fails. What movie fail?
Epic fail. Finish him. Sorry, I just wanted to do a couple voices.
What's your epic fail? I'll do, when we do sci-fi, it'll be my choices. But
Okay.
let's go.
This is a movie that I love to hate and hate to love. But it was the original Green Lantern, 2011. And pretty much everything about this movie was, it could have been on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like, I loved that they had the portrayal, and the CGI at the time was pretty good, but they just went overboard. It was too much CGI. The suit was just ridiculous. It looked like a glowing lozenge. Hold on a second. I'll have to edit that part out. My throat is killing me. Sorry. Yeah, Green Lantern. And I love him. He's great as Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds is awesome. And he's probably the reason why I think it's love to hate, hate to love, because he's good in it, because he's always a little bit funny to me. But whew, that was a stinker.
You know, it's funny because, when I'm not going to defend that movie necessarily, but actually I honestly liked the first Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. I think it's because I liked Ryan Reynolds. He wasn't a superstar at that time. I think Deadpool really helped. Now, of course, he was in movies. His name was at the top of these movies, but like, I think Deadpool really made him like a huge bankable star, where he just getting big paydays. But because obviously he was the lead in Green Lantern, which is a big marquee character.
Was that his first lead?
Green Lantern? No,
where he was one
best
named?
friends. He was like he was fat as like a teenager, and then like
God, who was that with? Amy? Was that Amy Smart?
Yeah, Amy Smart was in that, and Anna Faris was in that. But
yes,
yeah. So I mean, it is Ryan Reynolds, and I mean,
yeah. I don't think he was. I think it was a triple header, that one. I think Green Lantern might have been his first Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern.
Oh yeah,
like
and
a name above the title type of.
Yeah, and I think I really liked the character Green Lantern. And I actually didn't mind the CGI costume. A lot of things that bothered a lot of people, they did not like in that movie. And but for me, and it wasn't something that, even if I had a social media presence at that time, even if social media was a thing, I would have gone on and ripped it, because I didn't, as much as I liked that character, I didn't collect Green Lantern growing up. I didn't know, but like, I still like, even though I didn't know Sinestro, like, except like Super Friends, like I remember Super Friends, Green Lantern, but like, it just seemed dumb. Like the plot seemed really stupid.
Yeah, of all the things they could have chosen.
But I honestly don't know Green Lantern, the Green Lantern like universe as well as some other fans out there. People are listening So I'm sure there's plenty of reasons not to like this movie. But it's just at the end, I'm like, it seems kind of dumb, but I would have been okay if they had made another one. I would have gone to see it and just hoped it was better than the first one.
Which is just another reason why you can't trash these movies.
Yes.
Make sure that they make another one and make it better.
Exactly.
Well, that brings us to...
Right?
Say it again?
It's an evolution.
It is. Look at you. You're dropping in where I was going to hump. It brings us to our segment on Geek Evolution. And
from floppy disks to streaming clicks, it's Geek Evolution.
And this actually, the topic for today fits right into the horrible costume there. And it is about costumes in superhero movies. I alluded to a little bit before with the George Reeves. It looked like he was wearing a set of like woolen pajamas with an S sewn on by his Aunt May or whatever, to these suits that we have today. What do you think of the change in the costume and how it looks?
Crazy to think back, because when I think about when I was a kid, and we talked about this, watching the George Reeves Superman and thinking we're maybe watching something that just premiered, watching Batman with Adam West, they had dad bods. Like, it didn't even occur to us to question whether they were even strong enough to do these things that we're watching them do.
Well, George Reeves at least had some shoulder width to him. Like, it wasn't huge. It wasn't like, it wasn't like Henry Cavill or one of the guys, you know what I mean?
Cavalrine.
The cavalry. But Adam West was just a tiny little man. But then they started with padding.
And like even Christopher Reeves, who's in good shape, but yeah, they didn't ask him to bulk up. Like, who played Thor? Chris Hemsworth. Like Chris Hemsworth, if you see him pre-Thor and even now post-Thor, he's not jacked like that. I mean, they're now asking these actors to get in.
Well, now, Schwarzenegger didn't have to wear anything, though. It was just his body. So, oddly enough, one of the videos I watched today, and honestly, just by happenstance, because this is the shit I watch, Christopher Reeve, one of the last people to play a superhero who refused to wear padding. He didn't want to wear padding under the shirt, under the suit. They said that even for Henry Cavill, they had to put a muscle suit on under him, because the thing about spandex and Lycra, it squishes everything together. So Henry Cavill was in amazing shape.
Yeah.
Hemsworth, although he doesn't usually wear the spandex, even Tobey Maguire, back when he did the one where he becomes Venom and he was just ripped. Like, they showed a clip of him talking about he worked out for like 5 months and they still had to put a suit on him underneath the suit because the spandex would squish everything into one tube.
Okay.
So as much as I think there's a bit of disingenuousness to it. I understand it, but then we got to talk about Michael Keaton's Batman, and I think it was Val Kilmer's Batman that had the nipples.
Yes.
Where they went maybe a little too far on some of these costumes. Yeah.
Right, and it's interesting because it was, and I think that is a large part as to why in the first X-Men movie they went with leather. Right? I mean, it was like that spandex was kind of ridiculous and the costumes looked silly. And if you think of what would an everyday person, and that's one thing I like about the evolution of these costumes is before we had CGI, and CGI to the degree that we have it today. But X-Men, I think, came out in 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. And they were in leather. And those actors looked awesome. That was a great movie. And
yeah, solid choice to not use spandex.
Yeah. And then the Netflix shows, even a step further, they're not in a costume at all. Except for Daredevil, yes. But Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron
mostly
Fist.
leather and rags, I guess. Iron Fist rags.
Like they were not wearing any kind of costume, and then the Daredevil costume in the comic books looks like it more like spandex, whereas Daredevil's in Netflix is leather, right?
It was leather for Ben Affleck. We're back to Ben Affleck, one of the few guys who's played multiple superheroes. But yeah, his was leather too. Just to go back to what we were talking about Hemsworth, The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the only ones not needing a muscle suit under his Black Adam suit.
Oh yeah,
because he was one of the few who actually had the physique. I think Schwarzenegger wouldn't have needed one had he ever put spandex on.
Nice.
All right. So as we get ready to wind this sucker down, our final segment, we did this one last week, but we didn't call it out. We're calling it Ask an OG.
Hey, you got geeky questions? Well, we got ancient answers. It's time to ask an OG.
So we want a couple things from you. Answer some of the questions we posed tonight. Who was your favorite superhero? What was your first comic book experience? Do you have a critical hit or epic fail you want to talk about? What do you think was the most underrated comic book movie of all time? Give us one of those. How about that? And if you, for extra credit, if you're so willing, what comic book movie should get a reboot, and how do they do it right? So, signing off here. Come back next week. Check us out. We're going to be doing a science fiction preview, I guess. We'll call it a preview of next week's episode, science fiction. We're going to cover all the same segments that we did tonight. But hit us up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and X and TikTok, and go to our website. It's still under construction right now. OriginalGeekPodcast.com. Original Geek Podcast, pretty much every social media, and except for X, I think I had to go Original Geek Pod. But you will find us. Any parting words of wisdom, Uncle Ben?
Well, yeah, I think, if you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane, I think, that's what this podcast is all about, is nostalgia. And, one thing I like about working on this podcast with Steve is thinking about these things that sometimes we've forgotten about, or, just it conjures up, some really fond memories about the past and early geekdom and all we've been through and survived and come out the other side of this golden age of geekdom that we're in. And I think if you know anyone else who likes a similar trip down memory lane, let them know about our podcast, and make sure to like and follow. Thank you.
That's right. Like and subscribe.
Original geek, that's who I am. Rolling 20s with my squad, we got a plan. Marvel heroes on my wall, D&D dice in hand. Original geek, across the land. Level up, never gonna give it up.
See you next time.